And then F, they really haven't succeeded that much. They drop the ball really hard. Actually, maybe like low D because they have a League of Legends team. But it's NA, so like if you're not winning, no one really cares, unfortunately. All right, this is gonna be an interesting video for multiples of reasons. My goals at the end of the day, educate a lot of people about a few key things. First time ever, I'm gonna be ranking in 2022 what are the top esports teams in North America. So the reason I'm labeling it in North America is because it's the market that I'm the most familiar with and I have a good understanding of. There's a lot of teams across the world and they all play different roles and are involved in different esports teams, and I think this way just keeping it North America is going to be the easiest for me to go one by one. So if this video does well, I'll do one for EU, then I'll do one for China / SEA, and then I'll do one for Korea and so forth. Hi, my name is Thomas Heideck. I'm the director of marketing at OTK. I love to talk about the business sides of esports gaming and nerd culture. I enjoy creating videos around these topics to share them because I feel like I have a very unique perspective on the industry, being a part of it for almost 10 years, working in it professionally for 9. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, and if you're liking what you're seeing, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and all that fun stuff in between. Big thing to understand is this is me ranking these teams by pure brand perception. So what I mean by brand perception, and I'm gonna read this literally from the book. So brand perception is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. So the way people think OTK is funny is like, oh, OTK is a funny organization because lots of people think it's funny because the creators inside of it are funny. So that's what I mean by brand perception. So I'm ranking all these organizations based off their brand perception in North America. This means that if a organization is fielding an EU team or a not NA team, they technically get doxed points because most likely the general audience in NA won't be too familiar with it. Now, where do teams get bonus points? Teams get bonus points, in my view, when they have a few things that kind of help them stand out comparatively to the rest of the organizations. Now, we've seen a lot of organizations fade and come and go and all that stuff. So there's two things I'll give orgs to give them like a little bit of an advantage. First is the legacy factor. So some teams will get simply ranked a little bit higher since they've been so long on in the North American market that they have a natural advantage of just being the legacy brand. This is like your Dallas Cowboys, your New England Patriots, right? Your Barcelonas, your Bayern Munchens, like the brands that have been around for a very long time. And then there's the new kid on the block. So these are newer brands that I get ranked slightly higher just due to being new, fresh, exciting, and a combination of winning really recently within a specific set of esports. So now that I've laid out the field, let's go jumping into the ranking. We're gonna be switching in between the company's website and the Twitter because I feel like those are the most popular platforms that all these organizations operate, and we're gonna use that as a reference point. Let's start with Sentinels. I think Sentinels overall as a brand is basically like S tier, honestly. They've been around for a little bit. They've had champions such as Booga, that was a few years ago, right? And then on top of it, they have a very successful Valorant roster. They're competing in Halo. Their Twitter is insanely popular. They're one of the most recognized brands in Valorant, which I think is really good. While they haven't been winning a lot, their individual individual players are very outspoken. They're in North America, and I give them a lot of credit for that, as well as just being a North American organization that likes to be the bad guy. A lot of the times, I feel like what Sentinels became as a brand in the last few years is what EG aspired to be, like these bad kids, you know, we're the cool guys, but we win, but we'll also talk shit. We don't pull our punches, all this stuff. In my opinion, within 2022, you know, halfway through the year, Sentinels is an S tier brand in the space. Next, OpTic Gaming. So if you don't know, OpTic Gaming has had a lot of transitions of hands over the last few years. It's had a lot of owners, whether it was Infinite Esports Entertainment, the Immortals group, and then NRG, and now Envy, which now has rebranded to OpTic completely with all of its creators. So this brand has been passed around a little bit in the space. It's been in and out of Call of Duty and there's a bunch of other things, and OpTic has an insane level of influence and sphere. I think they're an A tier brand in the sense of they're a kind of like a one-trick pony between Call of Duty and now their Valorant roster. And because their recent merger with Envy was so soon, a lot of Envy's teams, they're in this transition phase. So while OpTic is, in my opinion, like a very top tier S tier brand, The problem is because it's been so diluted throughout the years, I think it's lost a lot of those opportunity to gain new fans. And because the brand's been stretched thin between Call of Duty, not Call of Duty, and now it's now back in other sports, esports, I think that's fantastic. I think the fact that Envy's now the OpTic Valorant roster is doing really well, OpTic Apex is doing really well. Both of these brands are doing well, but I think I'm just gonna notch OpTic down a tad bit because they haven't shown a lot of dominance in other esports, and they've kind of just fallen off a little bit. Not saying that they can't get back up to S tier, they've just gotten that niche just throughout the last few years. Next brand, it's no secret, they've really had a massive impact on gaming within the last 4 years due to OpTic actually leaving. So this exodus of OpTic has actually helped this brand shine, specifically in League of Legends and other titles. Even Valorant itself is 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves is an S tier brand because they also can move as apparel, as perception of style, popularity, and stuff like that. This notably comes from just their pure dominance in terms of just competitive esports, but some of their creators as well. They do overlap in that esports space. So one of the things that's very important to recognize is esports brands or gaming brands, whenever they include content creators, sometimes there's different approaches to all these creators and what they act as a function. Are they more of a funny individual? For example, Noah J, I think is a little bit of this like weird, not really, he's like a content creator, but he's not really into the esports thing. Well, while Hiko is more of an esports / gaming kind of personality. So there's the difference between the two. And I want to focus more so on the esports side of things because most of these brands call themselves esports brands / gaming brands, right? Anyways, so next we have the Guard. The Guard is one of the more newer brands. They're the company behind the Los Angeles Gladiators has founded them, and they have basically a lot of money and they've been doing a lot of stuff. There's also one guy that I know, Hunter. He's a part of the organization and they've been doing a pretty good job, especially in Valorant. I think they're pretty recognizable, and I'm not too sure about their other like ventures and stuff like that. So we're gonna have to look into it a little bit because this is one of the teams I'm like the least familiar with. So yeah, they have the LA Gladiators, the Los Angeles Guerrillas, and the Guard. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to dock some points because their brand is split into 3 different brands, right? I think it's okay. I think it's fine. Unfortunately, when you're a part of the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League, a lot of people that are Gladiator fans will not actually know that they can also be Guard fans and vice versa. Overall, Guard gets docked points in terms of the overall like brand perception. However, because it's all purple and white, this sounds really stupid, but this actually can help a lot of brands when they make the connection of the two. It's kind of like when NBA teams and D-League teams have like a synergized kind of like look and feel. But yeah, overall, docked points, not too shabby. So what I'll do, as a Guard overall, I think they're in a C tier. They have a lot of room to grow. They don't really have any notoriety sponsors. They have some creators, but most of these creators are just Call of Duty / Overwatch pros, which is fine. But again, not that strong of American footprint in retrospect to the other brands. So here we go. Here's one of the more controversial ones. Version 1, D tier. Honestly, other than having a semi-popular Valorant team, I've been overall just really disappointed with it. Just truly, really disappointed with version 1. So they have the Minnesota Rocker, they have Rocket Academy, they have a Rocket League, and they have basically Valorant. So Rocket League and Valorant are their only 2 other really successful brands. This is Gary Vaynerchuk's team. You know, they've hired a bunch of people, and honestly, given the time that they've had and they've been around since basically for the last 2 years. And honestly, 40K followers, nothing thrilling, and I think it's shown that the brand has just fallen really flat. They came in saying that they know media, they understand everything, and honestly, I haven't really seen it. That's it. I think it's really due to a lack of a figurehead that they can point to at version 1 that kind of like links everything together, right? When you look at the other brands, OpTic, you have Hex, you have Scump, you have these big renowned individuals, 100 Thieves, Nadeshot, Courage, Valkyrie, Tens at Sentinels, Booga, like, and now Shroud there, right? Shroud maybe not so much, but like they have these big iconic names. And I look at version 1 and I look at the Guard, and other than maybe there's just no big names to latch on. I can't name you in a single big individual from version 1. So I think the marketing has failed. The teams have been subpar. The success has been subpar. Version 1 is the I hope they really reevaluate a lot of things, and it's been 2 years. You've had a lot of time to grow, and it's clearly not working, so some things need to change. Whether it's approach to different kinds of esports, all that stuff, and success, I think version 1's just overall like a D tier organization. Hasn't really surprised me or anything like that. So now we have XSET. XSET is a very strange organization overall. I actually was on a panel with their CEO, which is really funny. Super nice guy, you know, came from like a FaZe background and all that stuff. XSET is one of those brands that when it did launch, it was kind of a meme. It was kind of a joke because it was one of these, like, they basically stated, we are like anti-FaZe. We're gonna be FaZe but better. We're gonna be FaZe but, you know, be diverse. We're gonna have a lot of individuals. We're gonna focus on not being so bro culture, which I think is fantastic. Give yourself that edge. XSET is in a bunch of different esports, primarily in Valorant, Rocket League, Rainbow Six. I guess they have Splitgate now. They also have Cecil for Fortnite, right? And then they have some Warzone fighting games, Apex Legends, and iRacing. So these are like the different areas that they're in. Most notably Valorant and Rainbow Six. I think overall, when it comes to like the Rainbow Six Siege performance, has been pretty low. They didn't really have very much success. They kind of just like pitter-pattered around the league. Same thing with Valorant. I know they were like top 10 at one point, but yeah, overall they kind of just like existed. XSET was just one of those brands that people talked a lot, got a lot of mainstream press because they had a few bigger pickups and they signed some artists and stuff like that. And they're trying to mesh this like gaming lifestyle, music culture, content culture, big play on diversity, which I think is really important, especially for esports organizations that are usually just white males. This is weird coming from a white male, but I think it's always important to be able to bring up other individuals. And I think they made a really big push as well for their women's Valorant team, which I always like to see a lot more support of, and just how companies rally behind it, which is one of those things that I think I'll actually dox OpTic, Sentinels, and 100 Thieves for not having women's Valorant teams. So I'll give XSET a high C. I genuinely think overall they're a good brand to have in the space. They recently raised like $15 million. Yeah, gaming, remakes, music, fashion, and culture. I think the biggest thing around XSETs is that they are just kind of like almost like a washed down phase. You know, there's nothing really that separates them that I'm like, oh wow, XSET, you know. I think it's more so from a brand perception. It's something that I haven't been exposed to as much compared to recent other brands, and I think they do have a lot of potential, especially with their Valorant team. I think they had a lot of success. Normally I think if they didn't have as much success in Valorant, and I keep saying Valorant because Valorant is one of the newer, hotter esports titles on the block. I think, you know, they've done a good job on Twitter, you know, most brands do, but let's see how they do on their other platforms, which is kind of gives you a more accurate perception. So they have 140,000 followers on Instagram, YouTube, 7K, a little low overall views, not the strongest. TikTok, almost a little bit over 250,000. So with Gen Z, probably really popular, which is good. So yeah, I think they're a very solid C tier team that has a lot of potential to move into B, but they just need to succeed more in esports. They need to succeed more as a brand that's just outside of just winning and having teams and leagues and then signing big artists, signing big creators. Like, what else do they do? Not really that much. I like this. I like it that they're doing at least something rather than nothing, but unfortunately I think I'm gonna just rank them as a high C. There's no big name that I can just pop out that is like associated with XSET, and I think because they're so a little bit more corporatized, there's no player or like content creator that kind of latched onto myself as like a figurehead that I look to as like, wow, these guys are this. Next, Complexity. Fortunately, Complexity is in a very weird situation. They have Tim the Tatman, all these other creators and stuff like that. They recently signed Jordan Fisher, Cloaksy, and a bunch of other stuff. This is going to be a hot take. Complexity is basically the same level as XSET and the Guard, if not a little bit lower. And when it comes to esports and the perception as this new thing that every gaming organization is esports, gaming, and culture, come on. How many times are you gonna do it? I think the tailgate was at a fantastic activation. I want to see more from organizations just outside of just picking up creators, picking up teams. I think the biggest problem with Complexity is just their lack of success in esports ever since, you know, they have this legacy factor. They've been around for an absolute horrendously long time and have just seen pretty average success. You know, it's cool that they're doing these activations around Tim. They're really amplifying Tim, but come on, it still baffles me to this day that they have Recful's 3000 rating on their channel, which is like the biggest performing video ever. Yeah, and just in the last 3 years they just really haven't done much. It just shows. The most recent video that just hit over 200K was this one 6 months ago. So, you know, they're struggling, and I think they just have a lack of identity of a brand. I like it that they're building themselves around Tim and using Tim as a pillar, but overall, I don't think that's enough. I think Tim is fantastic. You know, you have these supportive creators such as Cloaksy and Jordan Fisher, but they just don't move the needle as much as Tim does. So, in my book, Complexity is a C-tier organization, but the lack of success in anything else other than just being Tim's organization has really, really hurt the brand overall. Competitively wise, I can't name you the last time I saw a Complexity team win. I think it was like an ALGS. The Baja Bros are very interesting pickup. While they're very cool, they just don't move the needle compared to other creators and stuff like that. So next is Luminosity, LG. So Luminosity is, again, one of those older brands that's been around for a very, 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 very long time. Not as long as I think Cloud9 and other brands, but you know, they field an Apex team, they field a Fortnite team, they had a Halo. I think the most famous thing that came out of Luminosity was technically Ninja, which is really weird. And they've just kind of existed. Their content creators are a little bit all over the place. They have XQC, they have Anomaly, they have Nick A30, Shiv FPS, Jerome. But again, they don't do anything with these creators. If you go to their YouTube channel, what is their presence in the space, and how do they really activate? They post shorts, they post Fortnite stuff, but that really doesn't do too well. My problem, just in general, when you're not using your creators efficiently, or it's just a very interesting space. I'm curious to see where they go with this. Like, what's next? I mean, XQC is huge, but XQC isn't branded Luminosity. I think that's the problem. Like, yeah, he's got this little thing here, streamer for Luminosity, but you know, you don't see him talking about Luminosity. I think there's a big disconnect, you know, and there's a downfall of that. These individuals that, you know, get your bag from these companies. It doesn't help Luminosity at all. These creators just don't talk about the brand that they represent, and that's on the brand. Actually, I didn't even know Nick A was a Luminosity creator. So definitely there's a big brand disconnect. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to rank Luminosity right here next to LG. It's mostly because they have big creators. They have big personalities. Halo's Halo, no one really cares about that. PUBG is basically non-existent. Rainbow Six, they're still new. Rocket League, they were okay at, and Apex. So esports wise, pretty okay. They have that legacy factor niche edge. So maybe I'll put them as a B tier esports team. I think that's pretty fair, honestly. Space Station, I'm going to be slightly really biased here. I'm going to put them in B tier. I think they have more of an identity than most of these other brands. They have their niche in terms of comedy, in terms of like how they behave and all that stuff on social media. They have had like pretty decent success within esports. The Rocket League team is pretty stacked. The Rainbow Six team was pretty good too as well. So I think overall, from like a brand perception, Space Station Gaming is definitely up there for me. I don't think they're the most talked about organization, but they're very consistent on what they do. I think that overall they deliver, they run events, they've had personalities. Sean Duras has done a fantastic job also gently stepping away from this brand and focusing on his personal career. I do think that the one thing that's lacking is just that consistency of like being relevant comparative to other organizations. But if you isolate them as an organization, I think they stand out more than Complexity in terms of raw esports performance. They lack a little bit on the content creator side, but they are pretty involved on the esports side. So I'm going to bump them up to B tier overall as a very just well-known, good brand, especially within the last few years, which now that I really think about it, maybe I can bring XSET up to a B tier level organization. Cloud9, I think, has suffered from this legacy factor where they're very renowned. I'm going to put them right next to OpTic, but just the consistency of success has been a little bit everywhere for OpTic. I know I know people are gonna come at me, oh, but Thomas, they just won an esports event in Dallas. Well, the problem is, well, that was one of their most popular things. That team is from CIS region. They're, you know, so it's not really NA. You get bonus points if you draft NA players and you build around NA and you succeed in that NA, but that wasn't the case. So unfortunately, that doesn't move them into S tier. League of Legends has been pretty subpar. I used to be a massive Cloud9 fanboy. I used to love the organization. Mango, while a few years ago was very popular, I think he's definitely not as popular as before. I mean, I say that as I just see a tweet based around him, but that's for his tournament, you know, and just from the looks of it, Cloud9 League of Legends, and 4 likes. The problem I have with memes within gaming and esports is that if memes are all that you have, you don't have a brand identity. You're just a generic meme account that just farms the same stuff over and over again. There's nothing wrong with it, but just your perception of your brand is that you're just a gaming organization that posts memes. Like, there's nothing unique about you. And I think that's the thing that's missed about Cloud9. Cloud9 used to be this League of Legends superpower that had Meteos high, like Sneaky, this goofball. They had the CSGO roster in 2018. Like, 2018 was like the peak Cloud9 as like a brand. They had big sponsors, they had big moves. They're still relevantly popular, you know, and I think it's just kind of fallen off. It's hard to stay on top, and especially when you've been around for a really long time and you have a lot of things that you got to deliver between, you know, spending money and stuff like that. It's just hard. It's just really difficult. And I think that over time, I think Cloud9 can bounce back, but Cloud9 really needs to hone in on what are they compared to other esports organizations. The only reason I list them as A is because they have an LCS team. They have a bunch of other organizations, you know, not other organizations. They're just fielding a lot of just top talent. They're just around a lot. I will say it is cool that they're doing this whole training ground thing and all that stuff in between. Let's see. So they have an Apex Legends team. I think they're pretty decent. They have a chess player. CSGO, it's again, you know, yeah, other than League of Legends, Apex, CSGO, and content creators, I think it's still strong. Again, they have this legacy factor, and I will give them credit for Valorant White. But I think their Valorant roster has just really been pretty mediocre. So yeah, that's what I'll give them a B. I think Cloud9's definitely treaded in that like B range. The only thing that's really keeping them is the legacy factor, some of their bigger creators, and their recent success. Like, they're overall, like, they're above average always in League of Legends, so those fans will always be kind of tied in. CLG is, God, this brand used to be so popular back in 2015, and now it's just like, what the heck is going on? It is on the rise with this whole Defend the Faith. They really leaned into that. That's something that I think there's an era where just like CLG did not lean into that at all. Like this color scheme, this gradient, I think it works. Their focus around League of Legends is solid, but overall they haven't really seen any crazy success or anything like that. It's just one of those brands that's really also lost its identity. It's neither here or there. And then yeah, so just League of Legends roster, pretty standard stuff, nothing too crazy. I will give them some points for CLG Red. CLG Red has been a really cool thing for like the past few years that I haven't really seen any other brand do, and I think that's kind of what all they're known for. So yeah, overall CLG, honestly, D tier. Not even C. I think CLG just really doesn't have an identity, and again, the hotshot era has been over for so long. It's been horribly mismanaged by the Madison Square Garden company, in my opinion. Even though they have some pretty big brands such as Squarespace, Spectrum, Samsung, Coinbase, and I know they had Mountain Dew Game Fuel at one point. They had a ton of brands that came in, and I think it was fantastic that these brands were involved in gaming esports, but unfortunately it was with CLG. And yeah, I don't think we'll ever see the CLG that we had back in early times. I think it's going to be kind of like almost like a Chicago Bears kind of thing, where it's just like, you'll remember the good old days, but the good old days are gone. Dignitas, right next here to CLG. Just an outdated brand with nothing really too much going for them. Not really too much talked about. Dignitas is a little bit all over the place. I will give Dignitas, I do like their rebrand. I think it was really good overall. Away from the owl thing was just horrendously bad. Partnered up with Mike and Ike's. They have some of like the best partners I've ever seen. Verizon, HyperX, Mike and Ike's, Professional Makeup, right? And I'm like, how in the world? Yeah, they've been around a lot, but again, their content is very much the same thing over and over again. So we'll see. Yeah, Dignitas is like D tier. They don't really have an identity. They have a League of Legends team, and I think that's about it. I mean, I guess I could rank them slightly higher than CLG, so I'll put them next to Complexity. So C tier. Dignitas is a C tier organization in my book. Now, EG is really hard. For the longest period of time, they tried to do this whole live evil thing. They tried to rebrand so many times, and I'm going to be a stickler for that because every time you rebrand, you're assuming that your fans will follow you. EG is like basically all over the place. I mean, they had this like legacy Dota roster that they leaned into, but it's like a mix of international. League of Legends roster saw a lot of success recently, so I'll give them some pretty big points for that. CSGO, I think they did all right. They did build this American roster, but I don't think it's doing too hot. Rocket League, they did okay from what I remember as well. Overall, EG's all right. I would say EG within the last few years has made good strides as an organization. So I'll put them in B tier, just due to their recent success and everything. FlyQuest, they just have a League of Legends team. I remember they had an Apex roster for a little bit of time, but I can't remember anything out of it. They have a Smash player. All right, so for the past few years, so they placed 9th, 8th last year, and 8th. Then they placed 5th this year. So they did make it Worlds in 2020, but overall the last 2 years have been pretty subpar in League of Legends, unfortunately. So yeah, that's their like whole thing. I will give them credit. The brand identity in League of Legends for being for the good, I think helps them stick out as brand. But basically FlyQuest is everybody's third favorite team and a team that people will root for when one of their favorite teams isn't there. That's your whole identity. At least you have something, unlike CLG. FlyQuest, you're in D tier. You're for good, but you can't really do anything in the space. You don't really innovate. You innovated in the charitable side, but every other organization / company on the planet does charitable stuff, especially in esports. I think it's good, but not enough to move you past C. Immortals, I don't even need to look at Immortals. Absolute D. Like that brand has been just so dogged in terms of just performance, perception, everything. Literally, I don't even need to look at them, and I'm just gonna tell you that Immortals is literally F tier. Are there Immortal fans? Jesus Christ, 5 likes, 11 likes, 22 likes. I think the last time Immortals was relevant was this tweet, where they tweeted about I think it's Ibai's company, and that's what got them most liked tweet in a hot minute since like 2019. Oxygen Esports is like the new kid on the block. They've had a little bit of success. They've done a little bit of cool stuff between. I know they all own the Boston Breach. This is founded by the Kraft company. To keep it brief, I think I'm just gonna slap them right into D tier. They got a lot of room to grow into C, but they're kind of like a one-trick pony. I think they have a decent Rocket League team from what I remember. Rainbow Six team, I think, was pretty half-assed. They had a Halo Infinite team, which basically doesn't mean that you have a team. They have a Heroes of the Storm team, Valorant team, and then Apex. I think they're doing all right. A little bit better than Immortals, a little bit better than, you know, Dignitas. They get this new kid on the block feature because they're new, they're fresh. So we'll see. The only downside, again, I think to Oxygen Esports is, you know, the brand is split between Breach and the Boston Uprising. And the Boston Uprising color scheme is nothing compared to this one. But yeah, I'll give them like a D tier with a lot of potential. They're a newer organization compared to the other orgs I think out there. And I know they have some decent funding. Yeah, they need some identity. They need some consistency. But they are in North America, so I'll give them some points there. NRG is an S tier brand in my opinion. They literally have capitalized on Fortnite so well. I think the Huntsman brand was pretty cool overall. Andy Miller's fantastic figurehead, Grady as well on the content side. One of the more popular Apex teams. They have Lulu, Asu, Nathan, Sweet, who's huge, basically the same size as Imperial Hal, if not a little bit smaller. The Rocket League team was super dominant, especially when they acquired the old school Cloud9 team that also won. By the way, I forgot about that. Valorant, they had a pretty decent team. Overwatch with the San Francisco Shock, I think that was pretty good. They played it very smart by not entering Call of Duty. I think that was like the biggest L that most brands have taken is Call of Duty's cool and all, but unless you're literally winning, you're not really that relevant. San Francisco Shock has been really managed really well for the past few years. So again, I'll give them credit. They switched up the color scheme, so it's really well done. And I think in Apex, they've done well. Fortnite, even better with Benji Fish. I know he just retired, but up until then, Clicks. And then they had like Ronaldo and all these other creators. They've been just dominating in this sense. And they're one of, in my opinion, one of the best well-rounded brands. They would have been literally ranked higher had they not dropped the ball so hard with the Thum house and stuff like that. I think it's just one of the biggest things that they missed really hard. And then I think if they was really successful, they would be honestly probably bigger than Sentinels. So if I had to rank it like this, it would probably go like, so yeah, Energy is pretty cool. And then Golden Guardians, F. They really haven't succeeded that much. They dropped the ball really hard. Game day looks was pretty cool when it came out, but it's kind of just like, all right, you know, I think they've been just really much a one-trick pony. Yeah, and I think they were known for the organization to have Froggen. So yeah, other than that, they're owned by the Warriors, a team that's been very well led. So I'm surprised that this brand has been dropped so hard. So yeah, Golden Guardians, F. Actually, maybe like low D because they have a League of Legends team. But it's an A, so like if you're not winning, no one really cares, unfortunately. Team Liquid, I'll put Team Liquid up in A tier, maybe a little bit past Cloud9, but not before OpTic, because OpTic has just individuals that are just so strong. Team Liquid, I think overall has done a fantastic job, at least building some kind of identity, just great brand look, feel, and they mix in a little bit of lightheartedness, but not enough where it's that whole identity. I think what Cloud9 is trying to be is everything Team Liquid is, just maybe without the success competitively as much. And yeah, I think overall Team Liquid has really pushed the barrier, especially with the collaboration with Naruto. I think that was huge, absolutely monumental. I think they're up there as a top esports organization. They're almost S. Actually, I probably rank them a little bit bigger than OpTic. Why is FaZe not on here? Did I not include FaZe? God, that's really embarrassing. TSM is like low A. Now they have this like legacy factor. They have one of the biggest Apex Legends content creators, TSM Hal, CEO. I really like their brand identity. Fortunately, just their brand has been tarnished a little bit due to like Andy. I think they have a good socials game. I think they have some great merch. But the problem is when it comes to success competitively, TSM has kind of fallen off. The recent stuff with Reginald really has hurt the brand perception, especially for like people within the League of Legends community. And it sucks. They have a lot to climb with, but I think they can do a lot better overall. League of Legends just this year has not been worked out very well, and TSM's biggest asset is League of Legends. It's what they've been known for. I know they had some success with Dota. TSM still got that legacy factor. They're up there. NYXL, I don't know what to tell you guys. Yeah, so big problem with NYXL. Initially, it was Andbox, but then what happened was that it's split into 4 different brands. NYXL, NYSL, NYFU, and then creators. And then honestly, it's cool that they had a general theme, NYXL, NYSL. That was a cool theme going, but not a good enough. And then for them to take their best team, the team that was looking the best, and just rebrand that as the parent company, I think that was okay. But the same issue responded where NYFU did not, most people didn't know. They have some of the cooler branding, I will say, compared to most esports organizations. They have some kind of identity. New York is a pretty cool identity, since most of the other esports gaming teams and contents lean so LA that it's nice to see something in New York, and I give people props for being a little bit different. So NYXL, I will give them a high tier D as a brand. FaZe would definitely be S tier. Winning in Copenhagen, all that stuff. FaZe is right there in my list of esports teams. I know the S tier is like really cluttered up a little bit. Honestly, Sentinels probably now, based off this list, revising it a little bit more, probably down here. Right now, I'd say kind of reorganizing some things. I know FaZe is just big. FaZe is just massive brand. They went public. They're huge. They make millions of dollars. Here is my list for esports teams in North America. Now I'm gonna kind of quickly take a look over it if there's anything I really want to change. CLG up here, definitely. I know Complexity has a bunch of sports people, that just doesn't matter. Yeah, this is my ordering. Yeah, come at me with whatever you guys got. If you feel differently, how would you guys rank this stuff? Let me know in the chat. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff in between. Let me know what you think about the video and all that good stuff.